A very good afternoon to everyone. Welcome to K-Conference. My name is Valerie and I would be your MC and moderator today. We have a very exciting 90 minutes lineup for you today where we'll talk about how we can level the playing field in Papua New Guinea with e-commerce. Before we start, I'd like to bring your attention to the Q&A button below at the bottom of the screen, so you can click on this tab to post your questions to our panelists at any time. We have allocated some time towards the end of the webinar for a Q&A session with the panelists, where they'll answer some of your most burning questions live. But please make them relevant for everyone in this webinar so we can spark the right discussions today. And I would also like to inform that this afternoon session is being recorded and we'll upload the recording on our website in case you need to leave at any point. So we'll start today with an assessment of PNG's e-commerce situation and a roundtable where we'll explore how different industries can come together to help empower the e-commerce industry. Following that, we have a very interesting presentation on how we can create enabling environments for the SMEs and rural communities through technology, and after, how reliable connectivity remains a cornerstone for empowering rural businesses and entrepreneurs. We will then close this with an executive Q&A for all the speakers. Feel free to ask your questions in the Q&A section. And for those on Facebook, do put in your comments and we'll pick them up for the Q&A session as well. So without further ado, let's welcome Mr. Brandon Sear, the Chief Commercial Officer at Kacific Broadband Satellites Group, to say a few words to open K-Conference. Brandon, please.
Thank you so much, Valerie. Good morning, good afternoon, and evening to some of us in this webinar. I'd like to thank everyone for their time and the organizers, including our partner EmStret, our panel mates here, for bringing together this conference and making the webinar happen. Today marks the second year of Kacific serving the enterprises and businesses in Papua New Guinea. We have dedicated our resources to connecting the unconnected and the underserved in Papua New Guinea, and will continue to do so with the help of different industries. I should also say this webinar will particularly focus on talking about different verticals, hearing the views of our vertical vertical resources and vertical owners, as well as the viewpoints of the communities to see how far we can go with broadband and address the digital divide in Papua New Guinea. Kacific is very, very committed in delivering affordable connectivity, and our business remains in connecting the unconnected. And we have focused in places where people are not in urban areas, in places where communities are not connected, at a very difficult time. We have had 2 years of COVID that we are just relaxing and releasing, witnessing relaxing and releasing borders there. And I think that will help us to expand the connectivity further. In the past 2 years, our focus has been to connect communities through clinics and hospitals, service schools and remote education. And we have now seen a rally in developing digital solutions together with some of the other partners. What we have also seen today is that e-commerce is becoming an important function and an important component to the country. We would like to address that with different verticals and see how we can assist in growing the banking network as well as the e-commerce to local businesses and SMEs. In brief, I would like you to please share your views, comment, and collaborate with us, and reach out to us afterwards if need be, so that we can assist you in delivering connectivity in any different businesses, or hear your ideas and see how we can partner together. Thank you so much and have a great day.
Thank you, Brandon, for sharing your thoughts today and for opening the webinar. So actually, when talking about e-commerce, from a lady's point of view, definitely e-commerce is a huge part of my life where I can help now purchase the things that I need and the things that I don't need with a simple click of a button. So I think today, everyone here, we are all very excited to see how e-commerce will further develop in Papua New Guinea, which really brings us to our next question. What are some of the policies and strategies in place for PNG today to further accelerate this growth? I would like now to invite our next speaker, Ms. Priscilla Kevin, the Vice President of PNG ICT Digital Cluster, to share more about the findings and recommendations from the e-commerce assessment. Priscilla, please.
So good afternoon, everyone. Good day and good morning, wherever you're listening in. So my name is Priscilla Kevin. I'm the Vice President International and co-founder of the PNG Digital ICT Cluster. We work basically in developing the digital ICT ecosystem in Papua New Guinea. It's an honor to be participating in this forum, particularly with Kacific and EmStret Holdings, giving us an opportunity to share the work that we are doing currently in the e-commerce space, and we're happy to share the development. So I'll now share my presentation. All right, so today I'm going to share about the e-commerce landscape in Papua New Guinea, and just basically share some of the work that we've been doing in that space from a not-for-profit civil organization perspective. I will also introduce the PNG Digital ICT Cluster, what we do, and the kind of work and the partners that we currently work within the ecosystem. All right, so the PNG Digital ICT Cluster is an ecosystems developer. We were established back in 2014. We have a membership of over 45 digital tech SMEs. We have a following also from the student and individuals who are interested in developing the ICT sector. We also got public and private sector engagements, academia collaborations, and sponsor and partner programs since our inception. The cluster is a unique platform for innovation between business and university, and has a link back to the public authorities, which is government. Our goal is to stimulate a business environment where technology provides important productivity and economic benefit for the country. We understand that today's environment is digital driven, and we're excited to be part of this sector and to contribute to PNG's development. Our work, as you can see, there's several partners that we work with, and this has been grown over time since 2014, and you can see that there's quite varying partners across the domestic networks, right across the global as well, which we've participated in various programs in the digital ICT ecosystem development, and particularly around the e-commerce space. We were part of the stakeholders that participated in developing the Electronic Transaction Act, which was headed by the Department of Justice and Attorney Generals, together with DJAC office that looked at introducing a ETA for PNG. And just recently that was passed in Parliament. So we're excited about the development for e-commerce in PNG. So I'll just get to the crux of things. E-commerce, so what is it? And I think this cartoon predicts something interesting. As you can see, there's a lot of technology now with this automation, and you can see that the person is actually basically ordering directly using, if you're using Apple, you may use Siri, then also using Lexus technology, which is where you have a personal assistant to assist you. And you can see that there's a communication between the consumer and the technology in terms of ordering the type of goods or services they want from the internet. So I want to move on to the next slide and explain what the definition of e-commerce is. So e-commerce is the sale or purchase of goods and services conducted over computer networks by methods specifically designed for the purpose of receiving or placing of orders. The payment and ultimate delivery of the goods and services do not have to be conducted online. So this is a definition from OECD. And you can see that e-commerce is not related to placing orders over the phone or fax. They're actually ordered through a electronic shop, or you can order them through a marketplace. And I think in PNG, we have a very common we have a few common marketplaces that have been established, the likes of EmStret, who have built a shop smart platform. We've also got other products that are actually driving the commerce platforms online as well. All right, so basically what I'm going to be introducing quickly is the National E-Commerce Assessment for PNG, and this is a document that we evaluated through the current Pacific E-Commerce Initiative, driven by the Pacific Islands Forum Secretariat and the Melanesian Spearhead Group. And in that document, in the report, it comes up with 7 pillars, and there's several findings and recommendations for e-commerce, which we can then focus as action plan or action items that we can do within the ecosystem to drive e-commerce. So the first one is e-commerce policies and strategies. And I think the introduction we had from Kacific is basically looking at policies and strategies that can support e-commerce within PNG. And you'll see that the findings recognize that that digital trade and digital e-commerce is very important in the national trade policy that has been emphasized under the digital trade perspective. And the emphasis around citizens participating in e-commerce as well. And on the right-hand side, you'll see it talks about some of the recommendations that need to happen to support e-commerce policies and strategies. And some of them include promoting the benefits of engaging in e-commerce through sensitization and awareness raising events, develop an e-commerce strategy and a detailed implementation roadmap to guide the course of e-commerce development, establish an e-commerce committee to promote engagement and buy-in from national stakeholders and engage private sector through an e-commerce committee, and improve the systematic collection of e-commerce statistics. We can see that there's a lot of work still to be done in this space, and it needs a lot of stakeholder engagement. The ICT cluster has participated in some of these dialogue in basically developing a strategy for e-commerce rollout in the country. The second one is obviously a very key, important area, which is the infrastructure. So again, without infrastructure, we're not able to deliver e-commerce. Obviously in PNG, we have challenges with high cost of internet. We have limited network coverage. About 1 out of 9 people have access to the internet at the moment from that report. There's challenges with reliability and availability. But then there's also the uptake of the Coral Sea cable and the Kumu submarine cable projects. And we'd like to see some of that progress being extended to the last mile reach. And obviously we've got mobile operator competition, more operators coming into the country. We'll be able to provide better options for consumers in terms of data and voice costs. You can see some of the recommendations that are made there in terms of expanding the network of 3G and 4G towers. At the moment, 85% of PNG's population is living in the rural areas, and they access basically 2G and 3G networks. So again, recommendations such as expanding the network of 3G and 4G towers, and hopefully the Coral Sea cable and Kumu submarine cable projects will enable that. There's also an important provision there, which is the NICTA Universal Access Fund, which contributes to micro ISPs that are interested in expanding the services down to the last mile. They can participate in the Universal Access Fund to promote that piece. There's also the importance of infrastructure and network sharing. I think sharing of towers is still a very big challenge in this country. And also in terms of reducing cost for bringing internet to the last mile. And there's also things like broadband packages for SMEs. I think the data rates at the moment are not targeted towards supporting businesses, small businesses. You usually have to pay for a prepaid data, which is quite expensive. So if you're a small business and you're running majority of your products and services online, the internet cost can be a very big challenge for you. So such recommendations as introducing broadband packages for businesses as well. And then there's also the technical support in terms of the existing services and infrastructure within the network for the country. The third area is trade logistics and trade facilitation ecosystem. So this is really in the trade space. We just finished a 4-week workshop delivered by Pacific Islands Forum Secretariat, which looks at e-commerce trade rules and negotiations, so developing the right trade rules to allow for e-commerce to thrive in PNG. And this is an area that's very, very important because for e-commerce to be successful, the costs within the supply chain process, the logistics process, needs to meet a profitable line for the businesses they're participating. At the moment, the costs are quite high, so to move goods and services between within the country and also exporting and moving it out of the country, it's quite expensive. So you can see there are a few findings there. You've got complex topography. Obviously, we understand PNG, the road networks are quite challenging. And then you've got lengthy customs procedures, which can be very costly. And obviously, we don't have a presence of electronic single windows. So these are some things that were discovered during the assessment. And hopefully we can work towards building the infrastructure that can complement the uptake and the adoption of e-commerce. All right, the fourth one is payment solutions for e-commerce. And I note that BSP is here as well. Muni Kulu will also share some insights on that. But as you can see, the commercial banks have a contribution in terms of banking the unbanked, but using digital platforms. And as you can see, financial inclusion, we still have a long way to go in PNG. We don't have a lot of our population banking at the moment due to some of these challenges. There are mobile money and mobile financial services available provided by some of these banks, including the microbanks and the postal network. But however, there remains the challenges of interoperability where you get to use the same SIM card or SIM number for across the service providers, so that it removes that hassle. One of the other challenges that was identified is the identification process for citizens to be able to open up bank accounts so that they can use their bank accounts on e-commerce platforms. So the identification process is also another challenge. Also the capacity building and the training on the use of digital payment solutions. I think one of the things challenged in PNG is trusting the electronic process. If you look at, people paying their school fees, they still don't accept the electronic version or the electronic deposit. They'd still like to see a physical deposit slip. So I think that capacity building and training is another area that can be considered in terms of promoting payment solutions for e-commerce. All right, and increasing rural access points to mobile money and mobile financial services. So these are some things that need to be considered. I'll move on to the next one, legal and regulatory framework. So there's a big work to be done in this space. In terms of the e-commerce workshop that we attended, there are gaps in the policy, including consumer protection laws, competition laws, data privacy laws, and data protection laws. So some of these are actually missing in terms of the trade rules. So how do we as stakeholders contribute to that process? I think that process lies heavily with the National Trade Office. And how do we, from the industry and the sector, contribute to that progress? Also undertaking the awareness and the benefits of the electronic transaction bill that was passed. It's now an act. And also then building up our trade rules to then be relevant and according to international treaties and frameworks. So some of this work we've been doing with the National Trade Office, and it's quite exciting to see that there's still a lot of work to be done in that space in terms of the legal and regulatory framework. The sixth part is on e-commerce skills development. Obviously, we can't forget the human capital, because if SMEs and users are going to adopt digital technologies, they also need to be upskilled. And we need to look at our curriculum. If our curriculum is actually developing and incorporating technology learning, The ICT and computer science fields are usually learned in universities and in institutions. So how do we then look at the curriculum that promotes digital ICT skills? So this is one area that we've been working with as well regarding a new STEM School of Excellence that was introduced in 2020. And we're basically introducing technology in grade 11, which will then introduce them also to software engineering and software programming. So these are our contributions to the e-commerce skills development. And obviously there are other programs being run within the ecosystem in terms of business skills and digital skills that need to go hand in hand. And there is also a focus around building more incubators and accelerators, not just within the capital cities, but try to bring it to places that have critical masses, that have telecommunications, that are able to then expand that knowledge in the digital space. So the last area is access to financing initiatives for e-commerce. So obviously investment is another area. So a lot of businesses do start up and they also would like to seek access to capital, access to finance to grow their businesses. So how can they create their presence online and be able to then get the right investment to then grow their business? So one of the things that the paper looks at is things like business accelerators and incubators, and I think the SME Corporation has built that into their policy and try to roll out a incubation program for the 4 regions. But within those incubation programs, we need to look at how we can promote e-commerce, how we can promote access to finance, and how we can promote effective, innovative business incubators and accelerators to grow e-commerce adoption within the country itself. So these were the 7 areas that were discussed in the paper, and it was quite useful to look at the recommendations and from a private sector civil perspective, how do we work towards building those solutions in those different areas, the 7 areas, and then how do we move the needle further for building e-commerce within Papua New Guinea. So I'll just show you some of the work that we've done so far in our work since 2014 up till now. So we've worked closely with the PNG National Stock Exchange to set up an investment fund. This is to support SME investment, particularly those who are in agriculture, ICT, and STEM businesses, and also women-led businesses. And this is to also promote the uptake of digital to use within their businesses. We also concentrate on talent and capacity, and you'll see some of the programs. We have a close collaboration with the 4 universities. And I'd like to mention something very important as well, which is the Unitech Domain Registry, the CCTLD. It's another project that we'd like to promote businesses who are going online to start registering using .pg. And how do we assist those businesses to register their .pg domains as seamless as possible with the support of the Unitech registry. Then we've got regional global participation with the Pacific Islands Forum Secretariat, which is driving the regional e-commerce strategy. We also have collaborations with US Department of State through the GIST program, and also an invitation with Berkeley University of California for the Innovation Accelerator Group programs. And we also have our own Cluster City Lab, which is really to build innovation labs to promote the use and uptake of digital. We also work in the inclusion space with CEFI and some of the youth networks. We're doing a current project with World Wide Web Foundation on women's participation in the digital economy. And we also work very closely with Diplo Foundation on the responsible behavior in cyberspace. So this is security vulnerabilities in software engineered products. And it's a global project that we've been working with since 2-3 years ago. And obviously we work closely with the Trade Office and the IPA Intellectual Property Office just to talk about protection on intellectual property rights for innovations that are built by these businesses. And we're excited about the digital government bill that was passed recently. We contributed to the policy to drive some of this uptake. And also, we also contributed to the PNG Internet Exchange Point project, which is something that NICTA initiated 4 or 5 years ago. And obviously, our recent project, we're excited to work with NICTA, the Universal Access Service, to look at rolling out the information communication centers. So this is some of the work that we are doing in the space, which will eventually indirectly and directly contribute to developing the e-commerce ecosystem for PNG. But with all of that, we just have to be realistic and keep in mind that technology can sometimes be very, very complex. We need to know that when we are designing technology, we're designing it for PNG's context. We're not adopting things that will make it very difficult for our consumers, for our citizens to adopt. We want to make sure that the e-commerce solutions, the e-commerce policies that we drive are fit for purpose and that they serve the majority of the population. Thank you, and that's it for me.
Thank you, Priscilla, for the fantastic sharing. And indeed, with the robust payment solutions, trade logistics, and the regulatory frameworks that you have mentioned earlier, it will then provide a very nurturing environment for all the e-commerce businesses to grow. So we see that Papua New Guinea's move towards e-commerce is accelerating, and together and coupled with the environment that you are incorporating, improved technology and more affordable connectivity brought by EmStret and Kacific today means it's time for businesses in PNG to consider getting online and getting into e-commerce. So our panel of experts this afternoon is here to discuss more about how different sectors have come together to empower e-commerce in Papua New Guinea. May I welcome Ms. Nuni Kulu, the General Manager of Bank of South Pacific, and Ms. Vani Nedis, the CEO of EmStret Holdings, and invite again Ms. Priscilla Kevin from the Digital ICT Cluster and Mr. Brandon Sear, the CEO of Kacific, for this panel today. So shall we begin? Welcome everyone again. Riding on your thoughts earlier, Priscilla, on the different initiatives on the e-commerce and on the regulation and policy side, how do you think this would then change the scene for the businesses in the more isolated and the remote parts of the country?
Yeah, I think it's really about stakeholder engagement. If a lot of policymakers don't really have the insight from the stakeholders, so we need to be seated at the table to participate and explain to them what it is like in the industry. So a lot of times policies are developed without appropriate consultation with the industry. I think that's very important, and we need to look at it across the board. So in the triple helix of innovation model, which is government, private sector, and academia, we need to at least have really good representation across the board when we're discussing policies, regulation, not just only for e-commerce, for any emerging technology that we're bringing into the country.
Right. I think also the game changer for a lot of these businesses, rural businesses and urban alike, has to do with improved connectivity in the country and how we are making it affordable to adopt the new technology. So perhaps I'd like to bring this question to Brendan. What would you think is the role of satellite broadband as Papua New Guinea continues to digitalize and more SMEs are formed?
Yeah, sure. So let me go back and basically retrieve the fact that was stated in the presentation, but also stated in the welcome message. We're looking at a country with over 600 main islands. 14% of the country today is living in the urban areas. We still have to address the 87% of the country and all the other small and medium enterprises. First, to connect them. Second, to raise awareness about internet and digital literacy. First, and third, hopefully to put them in a journey and path to get them banked and register them with the financial institutions. To do that, we will have to collaborate and come together. And that would mean us working together with small and medium businesses to basically access the remote areas. I can give you examples of businesses that has been going online through our partner EmStret, the Joker Coffee. They have been connected through internet. We had to educate and help the officers to learn how to collaborate and then create their own portals to basically understand the price of the products, but also gain awareness on how to use internet for reselling their products. So that's where we come in. In terms of the banked population, we're looking at a population of 2.83 million today if we actually consolidate all the banked population in the country. So we have a long way to go, but the good news is with Kacific and other providers, this can be shortened and fastened so way forward. With the COVID, a lot of businesses have already started looking into this. So where will Kacific focus? Our first focus would be to educate and acquire distributors in all the rural areas with the help of EmStret and other organizations in the scope. Once we have acquired them, we will have to educate them how to install the antennas. Our 1.2 meter antennas cost less than $1,000 now, and installation takes a day. We can educate them remotely, or we can get our trainers on the ground to actually train the suppliers how to install these antennas. Once they learn how to install, we will have to get them to find customers and small businesses to install the antennas for them. With Kacific, we have started offering now packages that starts with $78 to $100 on the interim for monthly fees. And then as you connect more people in small businesses, it will cost a minimum of $150 to $200. So for us, we have to make sure we have enough distributors in the remote areas. We have ensured that we have enough partners in the country, such as EmStret and others. We also have to ensure that the price per Mbps and the price of the plan and packages or the equipment remains as affordable as we can to promote these small businesses. And then the other part of it is also to promote internet literacy, which we have been doing through connecting clinics, communities, and universities to our partners. I hope that addresses your question.
Yes. Indeed, it does. And you know, I just wanted to expand a little bit on the part where you mentioned about there's a lot of unbanked in PNG. And you know, I think one of the main things of running an e-commerce business today, and also in light of the lockdown, is having some way of receiving money online. And I think that's where, you know, banks really come in. So to Nuni, what would be your thoughts on this? Have you seen an increase in the unbanked and underbanked opening up accounts with BSP to do their e-commerce business?
Yeah, thank you very much, Valerie. Certainly, electronic payments is available now to all consumers. And certainly, I think, first of all, I just want to start with the merchants' adoption for e-commerce payment services. And that's definitely increasing. We are seeing merchants from all sizes take up e-commerce. We definitely, what is most pleasing, I guess, is starting to see your SMEs come on board as well. And I think if there's an evolution, and you know, wanting to reach out beyond your shop front and to a broader market. 90% of BSP's banking transactions today are conducted via digital channel, and it's what's pleasing as well, particularly with a 30% year-on-year growth. We're seeing just over 61% of that is related to payments, which covers this e-commerce sort of activity we're talking about. We do have probably the largest customer base, so that 2 million sort of active bank customers are with Bank South Pacific, and no doubt we're across every province, and in between borders of provinces. We've also got representation in our sub-branches. But what's caused us as well to evolve in this space is we are creating our own bespoke sort of solutions as to enable, like you said, how does the unbanked or the underbanked come on board and be included, I guess, on digital platforms? And so the need to understand what is probably affordable, what's the most affordable platform for merchants to come on board, and then of course to be able to enable their sort of customer segments to come to use that platform. And so we're using mobile platforms, no doubt, as the most affordable platform, and this is also appeals to government services as well. But we also have a bespoke domestic payment, online payment solution that's come to market. And it offers, probably from an affordable perspective, any account holder that banks with us to really transfer that payment much more seamlessly, and even without the use of a bank card. It's important that we evolve in a domestic payment rail that doesn't necessarily always have to depend on card payments. And this is quite exciting for us because, as you say, if we are gonna aim to get banked customers on the system, we want to be able to provide to them a much more seamless way of pushing that payment through without having to depend on, I guess, the requirements around having to push payments through, having to use other devices to be able to enable payments. So we're definitely seeing an adoption and growth. It's always the bank's driver to continue to open up bank accounts across the country. But certainly going forward, we look down this path, it's not always going to be a dependency on having a bank card. So there is advocacy, I guess, out there, and definitely from the bank's perspective, we are looking at expanding that reach. How do we move away from the traditional sort of dependencies of using a bank card always for payments? And how do we now adopt mobile payments? So I guess from an e-commerce adoption perspective as well, it may not necessarily be the next sort of stage or step for an SME, for instance, but the fact that we and Priscilla's touched on some of the challenges that are presented in the ecosystem, and what's exciting, I think the ecosystem starting to evolve, understanding all the components of what e-commerce should be about, and then this is also driving, I guess, that emphasis that we're seeing SMEs come on board. We've got SMEs as far as Wabeg and on the highway, Maprik Highway, who've taken up the affordable mobile merchant service that we provide, and that's a fee-free service. And having merchants on that platform, it connects to the 400 plus mobile banking customers that are on our platform, who seamlessly can just transfer payment. And so it's about making sure the payment services is accessible. It's about making sure that the platform that a merchant comes on board to offer their service is accessible. And then the consumers who are using like our mobile banking platform services on banking and checking their accounts and making top-up payments, and are also able to do a retail payment. So the supplier who's in Maprik, for instance, has a guest house, has what they call grass cutting services, and it's really exciting just hearing their testimony where people are standing there sending a payment and then they're getting a service. So it is far-reaching and it is broad, because PNG is an interesting in market, and we have to cater for even those underbanked sort of consumers to come on board digital platforms to make their payments.
Right. And I think, when you were sharing a very big theme, the key, I would say, is really about accessibility of all these payment systems to everyone who is looking to get on board digital banking. So, with the new digital bill that was passed last week, what would you think are some of the implications? And do you think it would further help to spur the e-commerce in the country?
Yeah, so definitely a great outcome to Secretary and Department of ICT on passing that digital government bill. I think it's a great outcome. I think it'll standardize that uniformity across all of government. What's exciting is it'll set up the framework, I think, to move government services onto digital platforms. With the bank itself, we've got some projects underway where we're working with some government agencies, and definitely what everybody agrees is the efficiencies of how those delivery of services reach the people. I think the provisions as well of the bill will cater for a lot of key policies, and I think Priscilla touched on, how do you get an regulatory environment also being supportive of growth of e-commerce, and the standards allows all participants. It is an ecosystem, a payments ecosystem, and definitely underpins the economic activities. But it's exciting that government services and both business services can probably, and the provisions cover that secure sharing of data across different stakeholders. So those are kind of the key outcomes, I think, that start to address e-commerce. No doubt, the use of modern technology, APIs, for instance, and I think that verification of consumers, our citizens, definitely will enable more citizens to be able to get online, use mobile applications, and start to pay for services than having to travel on a speedboat or on a PNV to get to town. So from an industry level, it's exciting. The government's national ICT roadmap and its e-government making e-government services interoperable for all market participants, banks, and all sorts of industries will definitely shift, I think, the involvement of e-commerce, but more importantly is all citizens should be able to kind of jump online and get a service much more seamlessly. So all segments in the market. Thank you.
Right. No, I think definitely that would be a huge improvement to the way banking is. And then definitely in terms of the digital ecosystem, we are looking forward to a lot of advancements over there as well. So now shifting gears a little bit for the entrepreneurs and the SMEs who have joined us today, I wanted to pose another question to Brendan. So, from a very international perspective, and yourself being one of the key members of Kacific, which was also built from ground up, could you share your view on how SMEs can grow in Papua New Guinea, and what are some of the key learnings that you would like them to think about and take away?
Yes, so I think there has been a few ideas already shared through the presentation and the discussion we have just posed. But there are a few other areas that we have looked at with the growth of the economy. The credit finance and access to credit finance has been growing significantly in the last few years in PNG. I think the percentages from the banked customers, you look at 35–40% of the population that has access to credit finance and they're growing businesses. We're looking at 65,000 formal, small, medium-sized businesses registered. There are a few areas to focus on and improve there because 90% of those businesses are male-owned, and I think there we see a lot more females and women-owned businesses growing, which is great because then they can participate in the economy and develop the force and resources to campaign for digital awareness as well as internet connectivity awareness. So to that, I think a lot of small businesses would have now access to credit finance. There are several initiatives that we can see in the country. Also, having access to commercial land has become easier. I can see there are a few other regulations coming in. And I think a lot of businesses are land-based due to the way the economy is suited, because we have got agriculture as part of the GDP that contributes a known version or a known percentage of GDP. Now, training and capacity building has been growing significantly, but then I think this is an area where we can assist in connectivity as well as e-commerce to grow that in the remote areas. We can see so many other businesses in the remote areas approaching us to connect through our internet service providers and telecom operators for building a business against that. And last but not least, I think there are two other businesses that we see coming in: the service business to service the mining. We have seen a lot of infrastructure businesses in the last few months, especially right after the COVID rules and laws are relaxed. And last but not least, I think there are businesses now focusing on policy and legal regulatory of the environment, which we have also been supporting those businesses indirectly to connect them in the remote areas. This is besides all the other segments in the market and verticals that was growing before. I think for small businesses to survive, the very first thing is that they would need to have access to financial investment, and they will need to learn the basics of the business. So there's a lot of vocational training and capacity building that has to be focused on and that has to be accessed in the country with the availability of internet that's being made easy. And I see a few initiatives by funding agencies that has been placed recently. So yes, it's challenging, but with the connectivity and with the right resources to some of these growing segments, it's much easier now if we look back at the history in the last 3 to 4 years.
Thank you, Brendan. And I think to close off the entire roundtable, Priscilla, would you be able to share with us some of the key initiatives that the digital ICT cluster will be looking towards for the next few months?
Yeah, no, it's interesting. So our journey has been 7 years since our inception, and I think we've become a recognized peak body contributing to the development of ICT industry within the country. We're quite excited with the e-government digital government bill because it looks at also building up local content, and with local content, definitely that means local participation in that space. And we're hoping that through the National Incubation Center that they will establish, more development also around e-commerce will be developed so that our citizens will participate. I think there's a lot of good comments from the chats that are coming through, and it'll be great to provide some feedback as well.
Right. We will address that in the Q&A section in a bit. And thank you everyone really for the most exciting session in the responses. So now I'd like to invite Vani from EmStret to share about how EmStret is enabling the e-commerce environment and some of the digitalization efforts that they are looking at today. Vani?
Hi Valerie, how are you?
Good.
I'm at the APEC House. I just got out of another forum, so I'm on my phone, and excuse my background noise if I'm not clear enough.
Yes, I think you're quite clear to me. And shall we begin?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Vani, what are some of the efforts that EmStret is doing to empower e-commerce and the locals with connectivity today?
Yes, thank you very much. Of course, EmStret is a local internet service provider in Papua New Guinea, and we've been in the country for almost 9 years, and more so trying to focus on how we can be able to enable and create an enabling environment through technology and bringing in the solutions where we can be able to help our SMEs and informal markets and people that we see that has great ideas of how they can be able to have access to information and technology to do business. So, it's an exciting time for Papua New Guinea. We're actually getting into this digital transformation, and it's exciting where we're bringing in like innovations to help our Papua New Guineans to grow further. So being an internet or technology business, we've seen how it can be able to enable a lot of our Papua New Guineans and informal, sectors and SMEs to leverage on digital technology. So having to go around rural connectivity, and that's what we focus on. We do business in the city just to invest money back into the business so that we can be able to push our vision forward where we bring access to rural connectivity. I think one of the biggest challenges that, if we're going to have digital transformation, we're going to make sure that the ICT infrastructure is there everywhere and even in the rural parts of the communities as well, and make it easier for our fellow Papua New Guineans to have access to banking and opening bank accounts. Make it easier for them. If we're going to encourage people to use online platforms, we've got to make sure that, the policies and the filling up the forms and all these, things that minimize charges have to be able to see it from the perspective so that we simplify and create an environment where they're able to have access to information. So we can't see digital transformation if we don't bring all these infrastructures back into the rural connectivity, because most of them miss out. So having to experience ourselves, having to experience and gone through the challenges and the logistics of it, and understanding the challenges of our SMEs, we have created this ecosystem, which is our co-working hub for entrepreneurs. And we provide all those resources where we are able to bridge those gaps for our aspiring entrepreneurs, existing SMEs, and trying to get them on a digital platform and educate them. Because the digital e-commerce platform is new to many people, we have to see how we can be able to educate them. So it all comes down to education and simplifying the systems that can be able to easily understood and they can easily also use as well. So when COVID came, we actually launched our e-commerce platform, which is the eBay version of Papua New Guinea, and it's called ShopSmart PNG. And since we did that, we had about 86 vendors online, about 186 customers, and slowly we're educating our vendors who are actually using the access, and more so having the internet connectivity in the hub or wherever we are, to actually get connected. So, EmStret has worked over the years without the support and just, word of mouth direct connectivity. And we actually, very fortunate that we're in 17 or now 18 provinces, bringing technology into rural communities. And we see the challenges that we take across the rivers, over the mountains, walk the treks to go and connect somebody in the bush. But the issue is that when they make money, there's no bank to bank. They have to walk from wherever they are to the cities to put their banking. So if we're going to get all these ICT infrastructure and create an enabling environment in every rural, communities, definitely we can, make the change where we can say, yes, we've now are digitally transformed, where our people are educated to go online in e-commerce, and it makes it easier for transactions online. So we've connected villages, we've connected people in the bushes. They're making money through their hotspot Wi-Fi resellers. We're creating entrepreneurs. There's, partners on the ground that we give business back to them to do installations and things like that, because we want everybody to, have a share of the pie. So we help them grow and enable them through the resources or through the technology and leveraging money to sustain themselves, continue to do business, and educate them to see how important it is to leverage on technology and how important it is to have an online e-commerce platform where you can be able to reach your market nationwide and globally. And that is what EmStret does through ShopSmart PNG, because having to have SMEs, we've understand the challenges of logistics. It becomes really expensive to ship, for them to ship the goods from one end to the other, the freight cost. So we have now resolved that. We've brought in solutions where we partnered with distribution channels that brings the goods. We've partnered with bank like BSP. We've included our BSP Pay where people don't have credit cards to, they can go on and pay without having to have credit cards, and also the Kina Bank. So customers have options which accounts to use to pay their goods, select the distribution channel, and they directly connect to the vendors. And that's how they do business. We're just behind the scenes, flagging customers, have you seen this customer order? Have you done this? So we make sure that, the delivery takes place. And I'm sure that Nuni has experienced through ShopSmart PNG as well, and yes, it's been progressing slowly. It's a new thing, but we're educating, and like I said, it's an exciting time. So, working together with strategic partners like BSP Bank, Kina Bank, and all the other distribution channels and logistics of it, and which steamships that come on board to help our SMEs across Papua New Guinea for free shipping, but they only pay free shipping for 40-foot, 20-foot container, but they only pay port charges. So that's a really, really big help. And we've brought in the strategic partnership so that we can create an enabling environment. I hope I have answered your question.
Yes, yes, Vani. I think it is amazing work that EmStret is been doing in terms of connecting those that are in the bushes, in the more rural areas, and then also the new platform that you're looking at. Moving forward, maybe in the next few months, what are some of the key projects that EmStret is also working on to further power up the community?
Yes, we actually working with partners from like provinces, and having to have like connectivity, rural connectivity. And we've also won the bid with UNCDF to roll out the digital e-commerce platform across the country. Had to bring also with us because we're already in 18 provinces, so that also we've already created the foundation where we can leverage on the connectivity across the country. See, we don't get government support. We just do business, reinvest it back into the business because we are passionate about delivering, delivering these services to our people and see where we can be able to create an enabling environment. I know that, 45 years gone, we are catching up, but we have started.
Right. That's very nice. And thank you for sharing all the different projects that you have in the pipeline. So now, shall we share the video about Jiwaka Coffee Farm to see how businesses and commerces can be empowered more by the things that you are doing?
Yes, definitely. It'd be nice to finish it off with a video of what we're doing to empower our farmers across PNG. And I think Jiwaka is one success story that we can always happily share. So thank you, and working with partners like Kacific, to enable EmStret to go and continue the vision and the passion that we want to deliver for our people in Papua New Guinea. So I want to say thank you to Kacific for that partnership.
Thank you, Vani. We really appreciate you too. So now, everyone.
Hi, I'm Emma Wakfi, manager for Jiwaka Coffee Limited. We're a local social enterprise dealing specifically in specialty coffee. We started 3 years ago. We're wanting to do full honey and natural coffee. Now, to do this, because of COVID, the people that are our advisors are living in Hong Kong and Canada. I'm going to have to talk to them on a daily basis because I'm learning. They were supposed to be with me, but because of travel restrictions and everything else, they're not able to be with me. So before EmStret, I was using the main service provider. I mean, I need to be talking about machines that we've installed, processes and techniques that we're applying as we're working to find the best practice for coffee sorting, coffee drying, all of these technical things. And I'm going to have to be talking with them and for 3 or 4 hours during the day in the morning, time differences, but it's a daily contact thing. And with the previous internet service I was using, I was not able to do that. It was dependent on when the service was up and running. That was not really conducive to me because if I had a technical problem with the new machineries or so, you have people from China that are technicians, you have people from Hong Kong that are going to be translating, and we had to be, making appointments so that we were coordinating our times to meet. And if my internet service wasn't working, then we'd probably have to reschedule for a week or another 2 weeks in advance, and that wasn't good for business. And then EmStret came into the picture. I was approached by them to say, this is something that you can have. It's reliable internet. Give it a try. First of all, very reliable. I can come in, get the internet going, and I have steady internet, steady connection all the time. For me, doing this new coffee processing method, having to be in touch with my people, finding markets, being in touch with, the overseas international scene, having reliable internet speaks volumes for the reputation and reliability of my company too, and how I deliver services to them. So I really appreciate EmStret doing that for me.
Right, hope everyone enjoyed the video and it has shared a nice perspective on how connectivity can help even those located in faraway places like Jiwaka Coffee Farm to be more competitive with business owners anywhere. So thank you, Vani, for your time. And now I would like to invite Ms. Beatrice Mok, Marketing Director at Kacific, to share more about how the Kacific Internet can support all the business needs and e-commerce efforts. Beatrice, please.
Thank you, Valerie. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. I hope you can see my screen now. My name is Beatrice, and I'm actually the Marketing Director at Kacific Broadband Satellites Limited. So Kacific is a satellite operator operating in 25 regions in Southeast Asia and the Pacific. And EmStret is our local partner in Papua New Guinea. Thank you, Vani, for the very kind words. We are very happy to partner with you as well. So Kacific is the backbone of EmStret satellite solution that provides last mile connectivity across Papua New Guinea. So we work very closely together with EmStret to help increase digital inclusivity in the country. So we today spoke in detail and at length about e-commerce and payments in Papua New Guinea, and how e-commerce plays a vital role in moving businesses online to open access to the country and online consumers in the region. And one of the things that we cannot deny is that underpinning the digitalization and take-up of e-commerce across businesses and citizens is the need for universal connectivity across the country. So I have a quick presentation. I'd like to share a little about satellite internet as a reliable connectivity solution for e-commerce. And I hope that today you will be able to take away a few things. Number one, learn more about satellite broadband in general, Kacific's Ka-band satellite technology, our services, and how they can help connectivity for businesses in Papua New Guinea. So just a very quick introduction about Kacific. We own and we operate Kacific One, a high throughput Ka-band satellite. This was launched in 2019, and today we have actually grown to be the largest Ka-band satellite operator in APAC, with partners like EmStret in Papua New Guinea and across our 25 markets as well. So we set out with a mission to make high-speed internet accessible and affordable for all the regions that we operate in. And at the very, very heart of what we do, our vision is to enable businesses, governments, and communities to fully participate in the digital world. And we want to provide affordable and accessible broadband internet for them to be able to do so. So today, across the Papua New Guinea regions, you will see the map here. We have 6 spot beams that cover the whole of Papua New Guinea, each and every corner. So there is no dark spots at all. And if there are any regions that are not covered by 4G and fiber, today's satellite solution is the one for Papua New Guinea. So I will go quickly into why satellite internet, for those who may not be familiar with the technology and the term of it. So satellite internet solution is really the only broadband wide area network technology that is available everywhere, whether you're in an urban area or a rural area. So the area of coverage is actually more than the terrestrial systems that you are familiar with. And each and every corner is actually covered with Kacific One satellite. So with Papua New Guinea, rural and remote areas are spread across different islands and mountainous regions, So what we do is that we actually, with this, we provide an equitable service for people living in rural areas. Next thing, of course, is that the installation and deployment for satellite broadband is very simple and very, very affordable. So with just a 1.2 meter antenna dish with our satellite, and it's easy to install, it's quick and simple and affordable. It's much easier than, say, pulling a fiber line to build a terrestrial network across in rural regions of Papua New Guinea. The reliability and availability of our satellite services are also often more than 99%. So this means that, you will definitely get very, very good reliability and link availability no matter where you are when you are connected to the Kacific One signal. High bandwidth. So gone are the days with older satellite technology that gives you download speeds of 2 Mbps or 1 Mbps. With Ka-band technology, we can actually support 40 Mbps downloads. It's fiber-like speeds at affordable rate of USD $150 per month for the service. And best of all, satellite service evens out the digital gap between rural and urban areas, allowing businesses to capitalize on e-platforms in which the citizens can participate. So it really is a cost-effective choice for businesses that needs to deliver large amounts of data, video, audio to many locations, especially now with COVID and the digital transformation that is happening across the country and across the world. We do see that this is really the best choice for everyone. I'd like to just touch a little bit about the technology as I was speaking, how we make it affordable and accessible. So satellite internet traditionally has a high cost of entry, but Kacific One had a strategic choice of using Ka-band and high throughput satellite, which means that, if I go a little bit technical, that we use this thing called spot beams, the 6 beams that are across Papua New Guinea. And within here, we reuse the spectrum. And by reusing the spectrum, it's efficient and it lowers the cost per bandwidth. And that's how we make the service more affordable. So today, one of our plans, which I will show later on, starts from just Kina, 459 per month. And of course, we are a geostationary satellite, which means that our signal is compatible with a very small and simple 1.2 meter antenna, and it makes it easy to install, affordable to access, and we lower the cost of the terminal kits for satellite internet in most of the countries. So we have market applications across multiple sectors. We cater to residential, enterprise, government, telcos, and ISPs. So our most popular plan, of course, with EmStret is Gig Starter, our franchise retail plan. You can see here that it comes directly from the Kacific One satellite service. It is a prepaid, pre-configured service that you pay per terminal per month, up to 40 Mbps for residential customers, and of course with enterprise customers, it can go up to 120 Mbps. So I've taken a snapshot of what is available on EmStret's websites today, the different plans that we have. So couple and retirees, family, which is a very popular plan, from 647 Kina per month. And you will see that the terminal fee starts from just 2,100 Kina per month, which we have lowered about 40% with the introduction of a new terminal kit. And of course, we have business plans here as well. So the one top plan is the most popular, 70 Mbps download and 20 Mbps upload. And these are all unlimited plans. So this gives you a good sensing of the kind of last mile satellite connectivity for businesses across Papua New Guinea, which they can attain through EmStret's services. Now that covers broadband solutions. I think another thing that would be very, very important, especially for banks and businesses handling e-commerce transactions, is this thing called backup solutions, enterprise backup. So satellite is a very, very good backup solution when it comes to spotty internet connectivity or fiber cuts or fiber outages. This helps you to make sure that your business operations are stable and they continue and you don't suffer any loss in revenue because of internet outages. So enterprise backup is a plan that acts a bit like an insurance policy. You subscribe with a very, very small fee per month to keep the site active as a backup to your fiber service. And the moment there's a fiber cut or that for whatever reason the service is interrupted, you can activate the Kacific satellite solution instantly. And what happens is that we will trigger the unlimited data plan for you for the entire month until your fiber solution is back up. And upon triggering, of course, there will be the fee for the unlimited plan that is being charged. And once everything is settled and the fiber connectivity is back up, then this goes back to the small fee for keeping the service active. So this is something that you can procure through EmStret as well. It's something that will be very useful for businesses who need to ensure business continuity. So some of the businesses that we have connected across Papua New Guinea are here. So Technovate 2021, Credit Guarantee, Center of Arts and Innovation, Kopong Village Resort, Salvation Army Office and the Exchange, and of course Jiwaka Coffee Farm, which Vani presented earlier. Another thing that we have also done is that we've worked with Seventh-day Adventist Church to connect 28 educational institutions with Gig Starter. So across Papua New Guinea as well as Solomon Islands, we have helped 600 teachers and 15,000 students to benefit from this project where they can access digital learning, especially during the time of COVID. We have also connected the School of Nursing, Atoifi School of Nursing, and what they did is that they actually learn and enhance their medical knowledge of nursing through e-learning. And that is actually all from me. I would like to actually close with another testimonial video on a connectivity project with EmStret as well. This one now is for Enga Secondary School. And yeah, you will get to see Vani sharing a little bit more about EmStret and the connecting schools and the rural communities in Papua New Guinea. So I will leave you with the video to enjoy.
We were consulting at the time and looking around for
internet connectivity with the source service providers, but it happened to be very, very expensive. So at that time, we actually signed a contract or an agreement with our partners, which is Kacific, and that was our first project that we actually kicked off as a pilot project with Accelerators and the Enga provincial government at the time to connect the schools. And Koppen Secondary was the first project that we rolled out. They wanted 2 computer labs and also internet as well. Did a scope of work, a site visit, did the scope of works, and had a discussion with Kacific on what we need to do for Koppen Secondary, and that's how it all started.
Before the internet was installed in the school, students' learning was a little bit difficult. Difficult in a sense that curriculums were not available, teaching curriculums, and education department has not been up to date with the distribution of curriculum materials to our school. And teachers and students were finding it very hard to access to the curriculum materials and even the information that we need to know. So when EmStret set up the internet sponsored by the Enga provincial government, it has really improved the quality of teaching and learning in the school.
From experience, I was one of the pioneers who started the school in 1999. We go back a long way. At that time, we didn't have internet access, and life without internet access was quite difficult. And I think the students at that time who went through the system are heroes too, but it was hard. With the disk in place, those students who go to school here are very privileged because free Wi-Fi around the entire campus. With the disk in place, we update ourselves. As much as we update ourselves, we disseminate the same information to the students. And Koppen is very privileged that EmStret has put up this disk, and our students are very lucky, very fortunate to have that.
Hope everyone enjoyed the video, and thank you, Beatrice, for a very informative sharing about the different connectivity solutions that we can offer. So now I'd like to invite everyone back into the Q&A session. Our audience have some burning questions for everyone. I think the first question that we have today is for Nuni and Priscilla. It is about, what is your view on using decentralized banking systems such as blockchain technology with cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoins used for e-commerce payments? Would Nuni or Priscilla like to take this question?
I think Priscilla's responded. I think from a regulatory requirement perspective. Priscilla, maybe you just want to expand on that. Yeah, you provide some response.
It's an interesting question because the emerging technology in terms of blockchain and cryptocurrency, obviously artificial intelligence, and Internet of Things, these are the next generational technologies. I mean, in PNG's context, we have to look at the regulatory environment, whether it can manage those different technologies. In terms of some of our entrepreneurs, they're already using technologies such as blockchain. An example is Agritech Organics. They use blockchain in the agriculture space, and they had tried using crypto where farmers actually exchange crypto to purchase their fresh produce within the farmers. But then the central bank had to intervene because there is no policy to govern that space. So again, it really comes down to when there is an emerging technology within the country, our regulators, our policymakers, are they abreast with that? And then how do they create the right policies to then adopt those technologies? So at this stage right now, to answer your question, that's a policy issue. And I think we've been advocating in that space. We've already connected to the APAC forum, which is introduction of blockchain technologies in emerging economies. PNG is one of them, where we'll be working to develop the blockchain toolkit for businesses that are using blockchain technology. So that'll be an interesting development, and we hope to see that will get into the regulatory space and then open up those discussions for blockchain and crypto adoption.
Right. Thank you, Priscilla. I hope that answered your question for the one that asked us in the Q&A panel. And I'm just picking up a question from the Q&A panel in case people are not viewing that panel yet. So there is a question with regards to setup costs. I'd like to pose this to Brendan. Could you share with us what would be expected setup costs in PNG or Vani?
Yeah.
As well?
Yeah, I think either Vani or I can take it, but on behalf of Vani, I can take it as well. So there are two components to the setup. The first component is actually the installation. So you have to have somebody who can ship the antenna or a standard terminal from one place to another place, as Vani mentioned earlier. So there's a cost to that. The cost to the shipment depends on destination, as Benny said, but usually it costs anything between $150 to all the way to $200 or $300. There are different means of shipment, and our local providers and our partner EmStret usually, looks into the shipment cost, but also finds the best way to ship the antennas. Then you have got the actual antenna. It's a one-time cost of 2,100 kina. And so as such, that's a one-time cost. A customer would pay for shipment. They would pay for installation. Usually the shipment and installation is paid in one go, and then the terminal is bought and it's a one-time fee.
Right. I hope that answers your question. And another question for Kacific from Pitman today. Does Kacific have plans to go down the path of providing direct-to-consumer internet service?
So Kacific's, value add, I should say, and unique proposition remains in working with partners and providing customer care and human support. We do not plan to open shops and offices in these countries. There are two reasons to that. The first reason is for economic development perspective. We would like to work with local internet service providers, small and medium businesses, distributors who can install today the likes of aircon resellers, mechanics, and dish TV installers and resellers. They all work with us to promote the internet connectivity in different areas. And as such, we want a big part of the revenue to remain in these countries because we're there for a long time. So no, we are not going to offer the services directly. We are always going to work through the telecom companies and internet service providers. And we will promote the distribution channel and customer care forward. We have got other companies like, global companies that now offer internet services or broadband connectivity in other countries where you can only reach out to them through a website and there's no customer care. With Kacific, you have got a remote KC or Kacific Support Center that responds all the tickets. Our local providers have 24/7 support, and then we have got distributors in each area that would basically help you install antennas, help you go through any technical issues. So that's basically where we stand, and we will continue to stand there in the future.
Mr. Pitman, I hope you answered your question. And I think we don't have any other questions, but we do see a lot of comments with regards to banking in the more rural areas. Nuni, would you like to address this? Because I understand BSP today has more than 84 branches around.
Yeah. Yeah, no, thank you, Valerie. Yeah, I think I've read a couple of those comments. Our focus really is to get as much of all our payment transactions to move out of having to physically to queue in a branch. We do see a lot of I guess congestion in our branches around depositors is also related to making payments. If we're able to transition people, the adoption of mobile payments across all that 88 rather branch locations, then we both SMEs and businesses can generate merchant activity, but without having consumers to process payments either in store on an FPOS terminal or mobile, if we start to move away and go online completely. I guess a comment that keeps coming up as well, I think around, is it the role of banking only to provide these digital payment services or something to that context? But, you know, there are payment service providers coming up in the market. And I think central bank, while it under the prudential requirements does allow appropriate banking licensing, the banks do provide the payment gateway services. And so a bank may not necessarily be the forefront of such platforms, may not be the forefront of the mobile apps that are facilitating commerce transactions. But certainly we do have the payment gateways and the payment capabilities, the payment rails, I think is what's important. Secure payment rails and payment gateways available. And a lot of comments is around, yes, there is opportunity today for integration to facilitate payment. The service providers in the market will grow. I imagine the demand for facilitating e-commerce is there. The appetite is certainly there. And technology providers, e-commerce service providers are not necessarily banks. And I think a lot of comments were around, we don't need a bank to be at the forefront of driving e-commerce. No, those are other service providers in the market. But what's important is that the banks now have the payment gateways in the background to be able to facilitate how an app can work for a service provider who's just wanting to be able to make sure payment is received more seamlessly. So thanks, Valerie. That's probably just a comment that that could assist with those types of queries.
Yes. All right. And I think we have another question from Gregory, who is asking BSP as well. So he says, can BSP allow third-party integration for fintech? Nuni, to you.
Certainly, we are already, the bank does have a fintech, subsidiary fintech that's probably in operation 18 months or so, but definitely the bank is open to having these discussions with third-party operators, third-party service providers, and certainly from an integration perspective, we are ready to have those sort of discussions. So Gregory, yes, that's something that can be taken up with our BSP digital team.
Right. Thanks, Nuni. And Gregory, yeah. I hope that we have answered your question. We have now come to the end of the webinar, and thank you everyone for attending. We'll now have a slide that comes out to share with you a QR code, which will need your help to scan it and help us answer some of the survey questions to help us improve for the next webinar. So it will only be a short 5 minutes question to help us understand your experience today better. Once again, thank you everyone for joining us today, and we hope to see you at the next session of K-Conference. Thank you.